The life of Christ. 19. Continued teaching at Jerusalem, extraordinary miracles, increasing bitterness of the Pharisaic party. The careful observer can hardly fail to see that, as James approaches the end of his earthly career, his discourses become more profoundly spiritual. It is to the period with which we are now dealing that most of the extended discourses in John's Gospel are to be referred. That these, together with the startling miracles of the period, greatly affected the masses of the people and tended to draw them to him, is evinced not only by the record, but also the fact that the growing malignity of the Pharisees and their extraordinary efforts to destroy the popularity barely succeeded. Destroy his popularity and barely succeeded. Okay, that's what stopped me. Notwithstanding the powerful influence which they had and the machinery at their command, we are now in the last 6 months of Christ's public ministry. The time occupied in the present study extends from November to January of our time. Most of this was spent in Jerusalem and the vicinity, though there appears to have been 2 excursions in the neighborhood of the Jordan. In the neighborhood of the Jordan, and to the country beyond. Some of the most remarkable miracles were now performed right here at Jerusalem and in the most public manner possible, so that there was no disputing them except by resort to the most shallow sophistry. Indeed, in spite of the powerful partisan and malicious motives of the country, to the contrary, there appears to have been almost universal belief even among the priests and scribes and Pharisees that the miracles performed by Jesus were genuine. The force of these could only be broken or mitified by the pretense that they were wrought by diabolical rather than divine power. Well, if you're doing good, if on the outside you're doing good in truth, leave it up to God to judge the rest of it. The force of these could only be broken or mitified by the yet this opinion could have had but little weight among the people, as the prevalent doctrine did not allow of such a supposition. Accordingly, we see that the most desperate measures were necessary in order to prevail against Jesus. Even these would have doubtless been unavailable but for the fact that it was our Lord's purpose to lay down his life in execution of his grand scheme of redemption. Throughout tonic, no one's deeds counted for you like that. Why isn't there any clear prophecy about that aspect of the thing? And why is, certain contradictions and stuff laid down? Oh, I will be dead for 3 days, but not even 48 hours, and stuff like that. But the dying or the sacrifice was part of the Mithraic myth, wasn't it? And always some secret involved. John 9, 10, 11, 1 through 54, Mark 10, 1, Matthew 19, 1 and 2. Cure of the man blind from his birth, John 9, 1 through 7, astonishment and questionings of the people, statement of the man 8 through 12, the man brought to the Pharisees who examined him closely, the simple story of the cure, the enemies of Jesus having no other ground of fault, denounce the deed because done on the Sabbath. The common sense of the people revolts from the notion that such a deed can be sinful, 13 through 16. The malignants ask the opinion of the cured man, but immediately reject it and pretend to suspect him of imposture. They inquire of his parents, who confirm the story of his congenital blindness, but warily refrain from expressing an opinion, 17 through 23. The man, being exhorted to reject his deliverer, makes a memorable answer, 24 and 25. Questioned again, he answers somewhat sharply. Vexed that they can find no ground of accusation, they use invective, to which he replies with keen sarcasm. They reproach him and expel him from the synagogue, 26 through 34. One of the things that they say, all this stuff, all this is not literal, it's figurative. And there is evidence that sarcasm as even a joke, you're supposed to even be honest in a joke, is the general religious teaching. So how do you reconcile with that? Jesus finds him. He becomes spiritually as well as physically healed, 35 through 38. The Pharisees rebuked and condemned, 39 through 41. Parable of the shepherd and the sheep. Jesus, both a shepherd and a door to his flock, 10, 1 through 5. Explanation, 6 through 9. Difference between real and false leaders and guides. The love of Christ for his people evinced by his giving his life for them, thus again showing his divine character and relationship, 10 through 15. He desires to save all, and for this voluntarily suffers death, having so covenanted with the Father. The people divided, some malign, others favor him, 16 through 21. Some proof which shall compel belief demanded. He refers to his works as sufficient evidence and rebukes the moral perversity which rejects it, 22 through 26. Where and when was this? Does God compel religious faith? Reverts to the sheep and shepherd, Christ's infinite saving power, the same as that of the Father with whom he claims to be one, 28 through 30. The Jews, astonished and enraged at his words, threatened to stone him. He calmly reasons with them and appeals to his works, which by their own doctrine could only be wrought by the power of God, and which no bad man could do. Confounded by his unanswerable words, they seek to arrest him, but are not able. 31 through 39, because the Romans have certain authority, and if the Romans caught a controlled populace, if they thought it was a systemic thing in the populace of murder or even rape or something, they would bring the troops and clash down on that. So that's something to think about. The difference between him and John the Baptist, 40 through 42. Sickness of Lazarus announced, relation of Jesus to the family, how he regarded the sickness, his delay, 11, 1 through 6. Now, a lashing or something could be excused by the Roman authority, but return to Judea, conversation by the way, announcement concerning Lazarus, misunderstood and explained, special design in the circumstances, the end of which will be the increase of the disciples' faith, 7 through 15, arrival at Bethany, distance from Jerusalem, mourning and sympathy, Martha's partial faith, Jesus' assurance of Lazarus' restoration, referred by her to the general resurrection, grand announcement of Christ's relation to the resurrection, 17 through 28, Mary meets Jesus, resort to the grave. The Jews sympathize but question the command of Jesus and astonishment of Martha. Jesus prays. Lazarus called but comes forth from the tomb, 29 through 44. Some Jews convinced by this astounding event. Others report to the Pharisees their consternation. Unconscious prophecy of the high priest, 42 to 52. The still more settled purpose to effect Christ's death. His withdrawal to another place, 53 through 54. What effect does more than sufficient evidence have on those that reject that? Goes beyond Jordan and again teaches the multitudes who gather to him there. Mark 12. That looks like an L, but there is no 41 Mark. So I'm just going to say that must be some sort of misprint or a sludge or something. Smudge. Mark 12 and then Mark 19 verses 1 and 2. And sometimes it does become too difficult, the persecution, particularly if it's violent, to keep at. certain levels of public work, but often this is proof that there's some value that someone feels threatened in regards to what you're doing.